Hello and welcome to this week's webinar. Today I wanted to talk to you about some of the concerns and questions that some of you have had about learning about horse training online. And so I'm just going to run through a few of those concerns, and some of them I hear quite a lot and others not so often, so we'll just go through them anyway. I'm going to start with the one about horse training is all about feel, and I can't learn feel online. And I think that's true. Horse training is all about feel. That's very true. So what we need to be able to do with horses is engage the horse's brain. Anybody can, well, that's not true. Most people can push a horse around, like physically push it around to get it to do something. And that is often what's done, even inadvertently, if you look at modern dressage or something where the horse is being held in front and the legs are wrapped around and the horse is actually, pretty much being forced to make these movements. That's one thing. That's physically sort of overpowering the horse. And I can't do that. And, probably a lot of you that are listening can't do that either, because we're just simply not strong enough and we don't have the will to do that, which I think is also very important. And so what we need to do is engage the horse. We need to work with the bit between the ears, not so much the legs. So that's really important. We need to get the horse to understand pressure release and positive reinforcement. And a lot of the time, depending on the horse's history, they haven't had a good experience with these things. So they don't really understand pressure release. We all sort of think about that. We talk about pressure release a lot, but we don't really think about exactly how it's used. Like, how much pressure do I use and when do I release? Because how much pressure I use on one horse might be very different from how much pressure I use on a different horse, because it will require much less. The release time is probably always going to be the same, but that's what differs between people. And that's, of course, how the horse learns. So it's very important that we get that release correct. The use of positive reinforcement as well. Again, it's very important that we get that timing right. The timing is really important with positive reinforcement. And when I say positive reinforcement, it doesn't have to be food. A lot of people, you say that and they think, oh, food. That's one form of positive reinforcement. All it means is adding something. So you might add a scratch on the wither. You might add a gentle word. Those are forms of positive reinforcement as well. It's really important when we're talking about feel. What you're really doing with horse training is building that bubble of communication. And that is all about feel. But it's also all about the pressure release and the application of positive reinforcement. So these are the things that build that safe bubble of communication where the horse is relaxed and listening to you and inside the engagement zone. And the problem with that bubble of communication is that only you can build it. So if you send your horse out to a trainer, the trainer will build their own bubble for that horse. The trainer will have their own signals that the horse is obeying or not. When you get the horse back, you have to do that. You have to build your own bubble of communication, because your signals will be slightly different from the trainer's. So if you get a new horse, for example, from somebody else who's trained that horse, your signals are going to be different. So when you get that new horse, you're going to have to train your signals to that horse, because otherwise the horse is going to get confused and frustrated because it won't understand your signals. And it might be as simple as, your legs are shorter or longer than the last rider, and that will be put your legs in a different position on the horse. I, for example, have a verbal cue for everything that I use before I use, say, a leg cue. So for canter, I kiss at the horse before I touch it with my leg, before I squeeze it with my leg. And so that's my first cue. And if I get a horse that I haven't ridden before, I need to teach the horse that cue so that it responds to my cues. And that's really important. Horses aren't like computers. You can't install buttons on horses because it's just not the way they work. They're living animals, they're not machines. And so you can teach a horse something, but you're not going to get a push-button horse. You can't purchase a push-button horse from somebody else, because what happens, horse's training level is up here and your knowledge level is down here. you'll get a bit better and the horse will get much worse and you'll meet. So what we want to do is we want to both start here and you teach the horse and you come up together and you get there together. And then the horse and you both understand what you know and what you don't know. And when things go wrong, the big thing is you know exactly how to fix it because you know how the horse learned that. And so that brings me on to my second point, which is a lot of people say to me, I'm just not experienced enough. I can't do that. Oh my gosh, no, you know, I'm 67 or, you know, whatever it might be. I can't possibly train my own horse. And I come right back to all those things that came in the last point, was that you need to engage the horse's brain, not push the horse around. Your experience will increase with the horse and your knowledge will as well, as long as you've got somewhere to learn that is showing you how you can do that safely, and something that starts with relaxation. I think that's the most important thing. It can seem quite overwhelming as somebody who hasn't got much experience, who's been out of riding for a long time, to come back and say, have a really emotional horse. You know, you might have a horse that's just sort of really flighty and very vigilant, and that can be quite scary until we work out how to control that emotional level of the horse, how to bring the horse down, how to start with relaxation. And that's what the Can-Do training does. It gets the horse into that engagement zone. And we don't do that by running the horse around or tiring the horse. We actually do that by engaging the horse's brain and using simple exercises on the ground that do that. And they're only groundwork exercises. You know, I really want to be riding the horse. I'm always mentally riding the horse. So all of the Can-Do work does useful groundwork exercises that transfer exactly to the saddle. So we get them as close as we can. We have the cues as close as we can so that the horse doesn't have to relearn too much when we get on board. So all the sort of give to the bit and the shoulder controlling, it's all really close to what we're going to be doing when we're riding, because it just makes it fewer steps for the horse, you know. And I don't teach anything that the horse wouldn't naturally do. So all of the things that I teach, the horse, you know, is naturally happy to do. That, for example, that's why we teach shoulder control before hindquarter control. You look at a lot of people teach the horse to disengage its hindquarters really early on. And there's a couple of problems with that. One of them is that it's very hard work for the horse to disengage its hindquarters. So it's a lot of hip movement. And a lot of people you'll see if you watch training, especially some round pen training, that they're getting the horse to change direction or turn and face by moving its hindquarters. Now, horses don't do that naturally. It's just not something they do at all. If you watch your horses in the paddock, if they want to change direction, they move their shoulders. So it's a much more natural movement for the horse. So that's why I always start with shoulder control. And it's not until I've got really good shoulder control that I then move to address the hindquarters independently. And I think it is really important with this experience thing. It's little things like that, you know, knowing which area of the horse to address first, and then how to step that up to get your end result. Your end result might be flying changes. So there's no point in trying to get independent hindquarter control if you can't stop the shoulder moving. So it's very important that we build in a stepwise manner. So that's why I start, first of all, with give to the bit, which is the relaxation, and then move on to shoulders before I get to hindquarters. The next thing is the confidence. You know, a lot of people say, I just need more confidence, you know, that's all, I'm just lacking confidence. Well, I think the first thing to consider is just what is confidence, because it's sort of this blanket term that means different things to different people. And I think for me, it means knowing what might happen next. And we'll never know exactly what might happen next. But we can have a pretty good idea. You know, if we train the horse ourselves and if we're taking it in this stepwise manner, we can be fairly confident about what the horse is capable of doing. And it's that that gives us confidence, because confidence is not something that I can sell you. It's not a pill. It's not anything else. Confidence is actually taking control of the situation and knowing what your horse knows. You know, a lot of people get on the horse and think, gosh, I hope it's going to be all right today. I hope he doesn't shy at X, Y, and Z. I hope he doesn't bark. And they think like that. And it's confidence zapping. The whole attitude is confidence zapping. What we'll do, the Can Do Equine system, is we take you from the basics on the ground through all of the stages, getting the horse relaxed and traveling properly and walk, trot, and canter, and then on the long reins. And we get on when you can see and feel the horse, and when your feeling is, oh, wow, I really want to ride that. Not, I better ride it now because, you know, I've been training for a month or something, you know, now is the time. No, we get on when we're confident that we know how the horse will react. And it doesn't matter whether you're bringing a horse back into work or whether you're just starting a horse or whether the horse is in work and you're readdressing its foundation training. It's that feeling of, oh, I really want to ride that. That's when we know it's time to get on. It's time to take that step. Because if you don't have that feeling and you get on, you're just really asking for trouble. And that is why people lose their confidence. And when we're talking about confidence, the other thing we need to think about is the horse's confidence. Because we talk about our riding confidence, but honestly, the horse needs to be confident as well. And it's very important that we make confident horses. And the way to make a confident horse is to give the horse predictable patterns. Horses love patterns. Horses are very predictable creatures. And if they're not being predictable, if we are calling them unpredictable, then we have a real problem. And they do learn really well from patterns. And that's why with the Can Do training, it's all about setting up good patterns that your horse finds easy to follow. Just got a question coming in here. I'm going to have a look. Yeah, thanks, Libby. Libby says confidence is having a strategy in any situation. I absolutely agree with that. Yeah, it really is. It's when you get to, you know, you're riding along the road and a tractor comes along, it's having a strategy. And Libby says here she goes to give to the bit. Absolutely, because the thing I find with that give to the bit exercise is it brings your horse straight back into that engagement zone, strengthens your bubble, and gives you both something to focus on. And it's really important. And that's absolutely right. We can't predict what will happen in the future. So what we need is a good strategy, something that we can always come back to. Once your horse is a little more advanced, you'll be coming back to shoulder control. It's a little more advanced, you might be coming back to canter pirouettes. It doesn't matter. It's just something that will engage your horse's brain and bring it back into that bubble of communication. The next thing is people tell me about the horse's history. Oh, well, no, I can't do this because my horse is a rescue horse and, you know, this and this has happened to my horse. And look, I completely agree. I've handled and trained a lot of rescue horses, and it's really tempting to go, oh, you know, you poor thing, and to think a lot about what has happened to that horse. But I think the thing is we can only deal with the present moment. We can only deal with the situation that presents to us today. And what that horse is going through today is really important, because if the horse is anxious, it's an awful place to be. Anybody that's ever been scared knows that it's a terrible place to be. And we don't want our horses to spend any time there. We can't change the past, but we can change the future. And so rather than saying to yourself, oh, I can't do this because of this horse's history, I think the thing is to say, because of this horse's history, I have to do this. Because of this horse's history, it's the most important thing for this horse that I get it to relax and I give the horse confidence and that we move forward and past this problem. The next thing is sending it out to a trainer, and all of these things come together. You know, I haven't got enough experience, the horse is too difficult, blah, blah, blah. They all come together and say, I'll send it to a trainer. Now, that's a decision you have to make for yourself. But what I would ask you to do before you do that is check the trainer carefully, but also ask yourself, what exactly do you want that trainer to do? What exactly are you think that trainer to do with the horse? And have a think about that. Because if you're expecting the trainer to take that horse step by step through a program that begins with relaxation and builds on a really strong foundation, and you should expect your horse to be with the trainer for a long time. If you're just sort of passing the buck and passing the horse off, think about it, really think about it, because what is likely to happen is that horse is likely to be run into exhaustion, and because it is what happens most often. Most often horses are lunged or round penned until they're very tired, and then they're ridden, and they're people assume that they know things. People assume that they're learning because they're not misbehaving, but they're actually not learning because they're too tired to learn. So that behavior doesn't go anywhere. That behavior stays there. They're just not exhibiting that behavior, be it bucking or rearing or bolting, because they're too tired to do so, and because they've been sort of mentally closed down. What happens then when the horse comes back to you? So let's say the horse has been at the trainer's worked it really hard, it looks great. You go, you have a look, it looks great. The horse's training is considered to be up here. You're here. The horse will always resort to the easiest response. Now, if the easiest response in the past has been to buck and run or to rear, then the horse will pretty quickly come to that, because you haven't actually changed anything, because you haven't changed. You've stayed here. You haven't learned with the horse. You haven't changed the horse's behavior. You haven't developed a bubble of communication. So I want you to think about that, because I think that sort of training it looks okay on the outside. The horse does seem to change, but when you get the horse back, you haven't built your bubble. You really haven't. So really, you've got to start again. The behavior hasn't gone anywhere. The horse, is behaving differently now, but the behavior was the result of what was happening before. So I think, it will come back. And I think that's something you need to be well aware of. So what then do you need? And I think that you need a step-by-step process. I think you need a plan. And I think that's probably the most important thing, which is why I have come up with this, which I'm really pleased with, which is the workbook that goes with the new Can Do Equine Gold membership. You need to engage the horse's brain. I think that is the most important thing. Horses have been sort of run around into submission for too long now. I think it's time we all took a step back and said, right, let's just deal with what's between the ears. I think you need a strategy that starts with relaxation and builds on a strong foundation, something that goes step by step by step, that explains things to the horse properly and doesn't leave big gaps in your training that the horse is likely to fall back down through. You need support. You need a like-minded community of people that you can talk to. And I've been talking to a lot of people actually on the phone in the last week from all over the world, and it's been wonderful. And it has been so nice to see that really everyone's in pretty much the same boat, and we've got a really wide variety of countries and people. We've got a lot of gentlemen, which is lovely to have here in the Can Do training. It's really nice to see that, actually. It's one of the nicest things, because I think for a long time, especially for men, it's been quite hard. And it's nice to see that so many men are sort of seeing how this approach and how starting with relaxation is so helpful for them. And that's great. The other thing I'm finding is that a lot of people write in their comments say, I'm so old, I'm 67 or something. And we do, I don't know whether it's a time in our life or maybe in our horsemanship, we come to realize that, wow, we've actually got to put the horse first. And by doing that, we actually end up with much safer, and our relationship is much better, and everything just works so much better when we put the horse first. Sometimes it takes age to work that out. And I think also the fact that the Can Do Equine Gold membership is a lifetime membership. So having lifetime access is just really helpful for people because it means you don't have to rush. You know, there's nothing worse than thinking, oh, God, you know, I've only got this for a month or I've only got it for a year. I've got to get everything done. It puts you and your horse under a ton of pressure that you really don't need. So those are the main things. I want to just talk to you quickly about the bonuses that we've got in the Can Do training this time, because with this gold membership, you do have lifetime access. And each time I open the doors, I'll give a different bonus. And as a lifetime member, you'll get those. So each year or whenever I open the training, you'll get new bonuses. This time, we've got an off-the-track module as a bonus, which is a whole module just about off-the-track horses. So I talk you through the bridling, the give to the bit, the shoulder control, long reining, all those things with the off-the-track horses, because they are a bit special. They need a bit of untraining before we retrain them. And so I walk you through that with off-the-track horses. The other one, the other bonus module is the young horse module. Now, this can apply to educationally young horses or chronologically young horses. So you might just have a young horse, or you might have a horse that's 8 years old that's never had any training. Either way, really suitable for that. And we talk about picking up their feet, working them in a round pen and tying up and doing all sorts of things like that. Also, it's fully downloadable now. Now, the Can Do Equine has never been fully downloadable before. It hasn't been downloadable at all. Now you can download absolutely every video lesson. There's over 210, so you'll be busy. And we have the workbook, which I'm really pleased about. In this, you've got checklists, if I can find one. I should have set this up before with the page I was going to turn to. There we are. So checklists. So these leave several weeks. This is each week, and we're going to go through this together. So this does all of the modules. There's a checklist for each of the modules there, and it's divided into 6 weeks. So for the first 6 weeks, which starts on December the 1st, we're opening it up. For the first 6 weeks, you get a new module each week. And we're going to work through that together. So we've got the private Facebook group, and you've got contact with me. We're going to put videos up, and we'll chat about our horses that we're bringing back into work over these first 6 weeks as I give you each of the modules. Of course, you know, you do have it for life. The first 6 weeks, you know, we'll get a good start together, and we'll all sort of be at the same stage, which will be a lot of fun. But then, you know, you'll be able to dive back in. And I find one of the big things about this training is that what it does more than anything is raises your expectations. I remember when I was in the States with John and Josh Lyons, Josh said to me, he said, oh, when you go home, the first thing you're going to do is take your horses back to basics and start again. And I thought, no way. There's no way I'm going to do that. I thought my horses are perfect. Like my Polo pony had the best PR. My warm blood mare that I bought from Australia had fantastic flying changes. I thought, my horses are great. There's no way. And I'd been back about a month, and I thought, oh, wow, actually this could be much better. So I did. I took them both right back to the beginning, back to the give to the bit work and everything. And I cannot tell you how much better they got. It was amazing. And what happens, you get to a certain level, and then your expectations just go up. And I'm pretty sure, you know, when you get there as well, your expectations are going to go up again. It happens to me every time. Every time I think, wow, I'm so pleased with this horse. I think, okay, hang on a minute. Wow, it could be even better than that. And I take them back. I take them back to the beginning. It doesn't take long because they've got a great, solid foundation. But taking horses back like that is wonderful. So if you'll bring your horse back into work, which is our theme this time, or if you're just wanting to take a horse back to basics and really lift your game, you're in the right place. I hope to see you in this training really soon. Bye.